This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews, and I have a collaboration video. I have two guests today. First time on my channel, I have the Green Man. So we're going to be talking about Countdown to Extinction by Megadeth, and Hector, the Chill Dude on the Couch Reviews, who we've done multiple different collaborations with on both of our channels. So today we're talking about the anniversary, which is the 30th anniversary of Countdown to Extinction. I have that. And this is just a great album. So what we're going to do is basically talk about, what did you think of the album the first time you started listening to it? And then we'll just talk about some of our favorite songs and things like that. So we'll go in, I guess, like a counterclockwise movement. I don't know if that's configuration is what you see it on my screen, but Green Man, would you like to start? What were your impressions of Countdown to Extinction?
Yeah, so I sort of came across this album when I was going through my early phase with Megadeth in the sort of early 2000s at university. So the way I got into Megadeth is probably quite a few people who were also roughly my age, maybe, that were playing this game, Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Oh, yeah.
And Peace Sells was one of the songs playing on the radio in that video game. So that kick-started me wanting to get into a lot more Megadeth. My friends at the time were really into Metallica, and so was I. And then I heard Peace Sells, and I thought, actually, you know what? I'm going to give Megadeth a bit more of a shot. And then at university, that sort of chronological order, I kind of started with Peace Sells, not with their debut. I started with Peace Sells, then I went to what came after? So Far, So Good, So What, and then Rust in Peace, and then Countdown. And my first impressions of it were that it was a bit of a change from Rust in Peace. It wasn't as much of a kind of a hyperspeed, technical kind of guitar show that Rust in Peace is. I mean, Rust in Peace is, it's one of the most iconic metal albums, thrash metal albums, I think, of all time. And Countdown is a bit more, I think it was their most commercially successful album.
Yes.
I think so.
And yeah, so it's a bit more accessible to me. And I remember instantly liking quite a few of the songs on there. But interestingly, over the years, Countdown, I haven't been back to as much as I thought I might. But listening to it again in preparation for this, I'm like, this is really good. And I do have a memory of, I think it was several years ago when I was in a kind of a club in London, in Camden, which plays rock and metal nights, or does rock and metal nights. It was really good. And the DJ that night put on Sweating Bullets. Mm-hmm. And it was just fantastic. It's like, I was like, why haven't I been back to this album much? So I went back to it then, got into it a bit more then, and remembered, yeah, this is a good album. But now listening to it before this, I'm like, this is probably, this is really good Megadeth. It's probably one of their more, I wouldn't say underrated, I don't think, but because it's kind of still one, I think, considered, and it's their most commercially successful, but it's in the shadow of Rust in Peace a little bit, I think, maybe, because Rust in Peace was so good. I mean, any band would have a job following up Rust in Peace. I mean, it's just a mic drop kind of an album.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. All right, Hector, what do you think?
Well, to me, this was my introduction to Megadeth. I listened to this when it came out in 1992. And me being fairly new to, I first got more into alternative grunge. So the first metal band that I bought was the Black Album. So when this came out, I liked the cover. But my initial thoughts being, young at that time was like, oh my God, this is a Metallica clone. Yeah. That's what I thought at the, being young. So people, please don't shout at me. I now know. I didn't know Dave Mustaine was in the band back then. I was young. But the first song that I heard from it was actually Sweating Bullets. I think I saw the video on MTV's Headbangers Ball back in the 90s. And I just thought, this video is great. The guy is crazy. He's talking to himself. And something that they had very interesting was though he had some like unique vocal style. It was like raspy and very different. You know, I wouldn't say like he's a great singer, but he has his style. And this was my introduction to Megadeth. This was the first album I bought from them, and then I heard Peace Cells, Rust in Peace, and this is the album that marked like the second wave of Megadeth. They were for me more thrash too. This is like their more commercial because after that they had Euthanasia and they went more clean sounding, more commercial. But this album is not my favorite Megadeth album. It was my introduction to them. My favorite is obviously Rust in Peace, which I have on vinyl, but I forgot to bring it up. But yeah, this one I think it holds up super well. There's some classic songs on it, and I still revisit it, but I think I listen most to the singles, but also like Tom on preparation, I started singing to it. I'm like, and I was thinking, oh, there's some hidden gems here that need more attention. But yeah, it was my introduction to Megadeth. So it's an album that I really remember being in high school and just showing the cover to my friends. It's like, oh look, it's the old guy from the video, and then I remember when I knew he was in Metallica, it was the whole Metallica versus Megadeth, which I think it's stupid that people are still doing that debate. But yes, it was my introduction to the band. And I think for people that maybe like more commercial sounding metal, I think Countdown to Extinction is a good introduction to Megadeth. If you're want to ease into it, I think I would start with this one, then go into Rust into Peace.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think this is a great starting point. For me, I was into Megadeth. That was one of the first metal bands. I think the first album I bought was So Far So Good So What. I think the first song I heard was probably the Peace Cells. I used to watch Headbangers Ball a lot back in the late 80s, and a really great video for Peace Cells. And Rust in Peace, that's a classic. That'll, for me, always be my favorite. But this one I really love. It's a little more accessible. I think they became a lot more mainstream. You guys talked about the Sweating Bullets music video, and they played that on Headbangers Ball. But I do remember one time watching MTV. It was around like 6 o'clock in the evening, and that video came on, and I remember being surprised because, you know, they're playing Megadeth in the evening and not on a Saturday night. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think that's a sign of them coming into the mainstream. Like, you know, they used to play Metallica during the day as well with the Black Album. I think at this point in time, they were still showing videos from the Black Album. But, you know, a lot of people say, you know, this one, there are some similarities. Like you got like the shirtless old man with the in the front, which is similar to the guy from the Unforgiven video from Metallica. And I guess that was kind of like a trend in the early 90s. But this is probably one of my, I might say this maybe like my second favorite. I was, you know, Rust in Peace, though, probably never top that. That's just a masterpiece. But definitely, this is just a great album. So let's go back to the Green Man. Maybe some of your favorite songs, least favorite songs. What would they be? Yeah.
Yeah. So I meant to say at the start, thank you for having me on the channel, by the way. I was meant to say that straight away, but thanks very much for.
Oh yeah, you're definitely welcome. Yeah.
So favorite tracks, I think probably for me, Symphony of Destruction.
Awesome.
Even though it's one of the more kind of, you know, well-known tracks on the album, I do think it's great, and I think it's, I think Marty Friedman's solo in this is brilliant. I mean, it's so well done, like a lot of his solos. I think it's Friedman's solo anyway. I'm not 100% sure, but I like the groove on it, and it's also, I came across it again recently in a film. Actually, it's like an Icelandic film called Metalhead, and I don't know if either of you have heard of.
Oh no, I never heard of it.
It's pretty independent, you know. I think it's so it's an Icelandic film, and it's this kind of, the star in it is this girl who is grieving the loss of her brother, and she gets into metal because he was really into metal, and at the end of the film, it plays Symphony of Destruction, and it's really nicely placed in the film. Like it's quite an emotional moment, but they managed to get Symphony of Destruction in really well, I think. So check that out if you've not checked out Metalhead. I think it's 2013. I think I had a job finding a version with English subtitles, but great film. So yeah, that's Symphony of Destruction. I really like Sweating Bullets. Obviously, I mentioned that one earlier, but I think it's the groove in that again. And there's that verse with that guitar riff, which sounds a little bit jazzy almost, the way it kind of, you know, dun, 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 dun. It kind of really is an interesting track, like you've said already. The kind of the vocals on it and the way Dave sings it is, and the themes of it, it all actually, at first you think that was a really weird song, but the more you listen to it, the more you like it. And I think I'm still liking it more and more even now, every time I listen to Sweating Bullets. And then third, I think my third favorite track on here is Psychotron, because that has that just insane, like, again, I'm a bit of a sucker for groove in Megadeth's albums. I think whenever they do the kind of power chordy groove thing, you know, I just latch onto it and I really enjoy it. And I think that's probably what those three tracks have in common. Sweating Bullets is slightly different, of course, but I think those are my three favorites. A couple of dark horse tracks. I mean, I think Psychotron's a little bit of a hidden gem. The final track, Ashes in Your Mouth, I really liked as well. And I hadn't listened to that one for quite a long while before I revisited this the other day. So yeah, I think those are my favorites.
Okay, awesome. Hector?
Nice. So for me, I love the album starter, Skin on My Teeth. I think when he sings No Escaping Pain, You Belong to Me, it grabs you right away. It's a great starter, and I think it's a great opener that gets you in the mood. Symphony of Destruction, I love it. You know, it's a classic. I used to go, there was a Hard Rock in Puerto Rico, and they played that song to death. I go and I'm like eating burgers and singing just like the Pied Piper. It's a great song. Obviously, Sweating Bullets is a classic that I still love, but there's some other songs like For Closure of a Dream is one that's very interesting. It's like a power ballad type of song, and it's interesting, and I like the guitar tones on it. I really also like I like Psychotron, like you said. You know, it's there's some hidden gems on it. So those are like the songs I like, but I think my favorites would be Skin on My Teeth, Symphony of Destruction, Sweating Bullets, and I would have to say For Closure of a Dream. Those are my favorite four. My least favorite song would be This Was My Life. It's not bad, but it's, I think, that one of the less memorable on this album, for me at least.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. You guys said Symphony of Destruction, that's just a classic. And it's kind of a simple song. But also, if you play guitar, it's basically kind of like two chords. It's just like E, I think E sharp is like dun, dun. But it's just a very catchy riff. So I love that. Sweating Bullets, again, the music video was great. And I love it because it's kind of like a different like vocal style. And it was a very different type of song for Megadeth. So I thought that one worked. A couple of like the dark horse, the ones that we don't hear much about. Captive Honor. That's a really fun song because, you know, they kind of like create this whole scene of being in a courtroom. Then you hear the judge is like, "You've been sentenced for crimes against humanity, life in prison, no parole." And then you hear like Dave Mustaine, he's like life? What do you mean life? I ain't got a life. I just love that part. Just so fun. And that song, that's a really cool, great deep cut. And another one that none of us mentioned. Architecture of Aggression. I think that's kind of a little more of like a heavier song. I think that one was a little closer to their older stuff. Maybe something that could have fit on maybe like a So Far So Good So What album. I thought that was like one of the heavier ones. The ones that, you know, I don't say weaker songs because I pretty much love the whole album, but if I had to, I'll pick two. like you said, This Was My Life. That one maybe like a little. I like one a little less, and maybe the title track, Countdown to Extinction. I thought that was decent, but all the others, awesome. Skin on My Teeth, High Speed Dirt. I love all those. Psychotron. This is just a great album. So let's we'll start to close out this video. So before we go, any final thoughts? Like, well, where would you rank this as, you know, with the rest of their discography? And we'll start with you, Tom.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty high up for me.
Yeah.
I'd say I struggle to put it above Rust in Peace, obviously. Peace Cells probably still would sneak in above it for me. Well, it's got a slight similarity to Peace Cells in a way, because Peace Cells had some catchiness to it. And then I'm a big fan of So Far So Good So What. So I think it would be 4th or 5th in my kind of final cool. List. But yeah.
All right, cool. Hector. Yeah.
Yes, so for me, I can tell you it's higher than Super Collider. Okay, that was a Megadeth joke. I don't think
I don't hate that album, but I mean, yeah, that's probably like at the bottom.
Yeah, that's one of their weakest album. For me, you know, I think it holds a dear place in my heart because it was my introduction to Megadeth. But I would say it's in the top. Obviously for me, Rust in Peace would be the top one, and I really also love So Far So Good So What, and obviously I think Peace Cells, But Who's Buying is a great album as well. So I would rate it like number 4. So it's high up in there. I think in their newer sounding, I think you know, their second half of Megadeth, I would say it's the best one. It's better than Euthanasia and obviously Risk and some other albums that they later put. Then they had like some other albums that I really enjoyed. But yeah, I think it holds up still well to this day. I think it's still a classic album, and the songs have aged well for me. I can listen to them and they still sound crisp. They still sound, they don't sound dated to me. And that's something very important. When sometimes you hear something and you're like, oh, this sounds really of that date. But you could release this now and I would think it would be a hit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I would say that this is I would rank it very high, maybe even a 2, because Rust in Peace would be my 1. This would probably be my 2. I have this over Peace Cells, only because on the Peace Cells album that they have that cover song, I Ain't Superstitious. I never liked that one. But other than that, Peace Cells is an awesome album. And this is just an album I've always loved, always listened to it. I used to have like the guitar tabs book, and I think at one point in my life I learned to play all the songs. So I'm going to put this at a number 2, but again, you know, that can change, and I will be doing a Megadeth ranking eventually after the new one comes out. So that's all. Let's close out this video. Thanks for being on my channel. Everyone still watching, please subscribe to the Green Man. He has lots of great content, lots of metal reviews, and She'll Do It on the Couch reviews. Also lots of metal reviews and interviews. If you like my channel, you'll like their channels. They have similar content. So thanks for watching. I'll put links to their channels in the description so you can give them a sub. And that's all. We'll see you all again.
Bye.